The NBA is always trying to come up with legendary moments that will be etched in sports history forever. And they've succeeded for the most part in having some pretty remarkable moments too. But unfortunately, not everything has gone according to plan in the league's 73 years of existence. There are some disgraceful incidents that the league officials have tried for years to bury 6 feet under. So stick around, because today we are going to be taking a look at some of those moments that the NBA wants us to forget. But first, a simple reminder on how to enter our brand new giveaway. We will be giving away either an iPhone X Max, the new iPad mini, or a MacBook Pro. It's all your choice. So be sure to leave a like, comment the keyword, subscribe, and turn on notifications to enter the giveaway. It's really that simple. First is the 2002 Western Conference Finals. This finals matchup between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Sacramento Kings is considered the game's ugliest, dirtiest, but greatest series ever. In hindsight, there were a lot of early red flags that certain junctures of the competition had been rigged from that era. Most people are in agreement that Game 6 of this series is simply the worst officiated game in NBA history. The Kings were one win away from the ring, but then things got weird. 3 fouls were called on Kings big man Lawrence Funderburk, all within 6 minutes. The Lakers were awarded a whopping 40 free throws in the duration of the game. Meanwhile, Sacramento only went to the line for 25 shots, 2 less than the Lakers had in the last quarter alone. Even the most blatant hard foul ever, which left Bibby missing his Hail Mary thanks to a bloody nose, got no calls for Kobe. It was all kinds of horrible, and the NBA can try, but it's highly unlikely that anyone could ever forget the horrified looks on the Kings bench while all this travesty unraveled right in front of them. Next is the AllStar Legends game. The premise was simple. Retired NBA legends will be brought back in uniform for one last hurrah in a weekend exhibition game along with the slam dunk contest. I mean, wouldn't you be excited if they said David Robinson, Shaquille O'Neal, Michael Jordan, and even Tony Parker would come out of retirement for one last showdown? Well, the anticipation for the 1984 Old Timers game was indeed immense. The player introductions for the likes of Bob Pettit, Peter Maravich, and Earl Monroe gave everyone excitement, but the hard-hitting wave of nostalgia was soon replaced by worried grimaces the moment it became clear that everyone's childhood heroes are no longer as strong as they used to be. It became super painful for people to watch their heroes struggle to move like they used to on court, and the sequence of terrible injuries eventually prompted the NBA to retire the entire idea of All-Star Legends games. To be honest though, the way those players looked in uniform should have tipped officials off that this wasn't a very good idea in the first place. Next is the Jailblazers era. The Trailblazers of today are such an amazing source of pride for their fans, but things weren't always so serene over in Portland. In fact, for a couple of years in the early 2000s, this team was better known as the Jailblazers. Dark times started to grip the franchise in 2001 when Shawn Kemp cut short his first season with the team by checking into a rehab center for substance abuse. Barely a year later, Zach Randolph was cited for underage drinking right in his Indiana hometown. Also in 2002, 3 controversial Blazers made their way into the same less-than-glorious headlines. Rasheed Wallace and Damon Stoudemire were accused of substance possession while on the road. Ruben Patterson was also slapped with charges from his wife, who claimed domestic troubles from the basketball player. Even Quintel Woods was cited for speeding, driving without valid license, and again, substance possession. In 2003, Randolph punched Patterson so hard in practice that his eye socket broke. I mean, I can go on and on right here, and it will still take us days before we finish listing down the misdemeanors these Jailblazers got themselves into, but we've all got better things to do. Next is guns in the Wizards' locker room. Now, this may be an isolated incident, but for a moment in 2009, the Washington Wizards tried to give the Jailblazers a run for their money. It all started with a minor disagreement between Gilbert Arenas and Javaris Crittenton. The details of their minor squabble are a bit fuzzy, but we know it ended with Crittenton threatening to shoot Arenas. Calling the bluff, Gilbert said he'll even bring Javaris the guns to shoot him. Ever a man of his word, Arenas showed up to the Wizards' locker room in time for their next practice, with 4 of them. He allegedly told Crittenton, "Pick one." So Javaris did and pointed a loaded gun right at Arenas while the other Wizards ducked for cover. Luckily, no shots were fired, but Commissioner David Stern had to suspend both men for the rest of the season. Crittenton never played in the NBA again. Next, we have Charles Barkley's post-game altercation. Charles Barkley is a tremendous player, but sadly, he is best known for his hot-headed antics. He once threw a ball straight at Shaq and got into a full-blown basket brawl. But his troubles are not confined to on-court squabbles. One time, Sir Charles was in Milwaukee for a game, but he still managed to make headlines while away from court. Apparently, a local weightlifting student and his two friends came at Barkley, challenging him to a street brawl. Any other professional athlete who doesn't share Barkley's brain would have politely declined, but Sir Charles doesn't back down that easily. In the middle of a snowstorm, Barkley took off all his clothes and did his best Karate Kid impression, hoping to scare the guys away before they got any punches in. But the challengers weren't easily fazed, so Barkley initiated things, breaking the nose of his main challenger. He then scurried off to his hotel room, but he was still arrested and spent the night in jail before he was able to post bail the next morning. These incidents truly give the NBA a bad name, don't you think? Next is Latrell Sprewell, attacking his coach. I mean, sure. Warriors coach PJ Carlesimo was known in the 90s for being aggressive, confrontational, and frank, but did that really warrant such a strong response for Sprewell? Here's what happened. During a practice game, Carlesimo advised the three-time AllStar point guard to put a little mustard on his passes. Instead of saying, "Yes, coach," Latrell grabbed Carlesimo around the neck and choked him. Luckily, team officials and players were quick enough to break up the fight before anything worse could happen. Sprewell was told to leave practice and cool his head for the meantime, but 20 minutes was all it took him to return and hit Carlesimo one more time before he was pulled away again. Next is the passing of Len Bias. This is definitely one of the saddest tragedies to have ever gripped the NBA. Bias was a valuable gem in American basketball and was named a first-team All-American during his 4 years with Maryland. His on-court skills were so good, Bias ended up getting drafted as the second overall pick in the 1986 NBA draft by none other than the newly crowned Boston Celtics team. He was highly touted to bring the already dominating Celtics team to another level. What with his ability to challenge the likes of Michael Jordan, he could have had a legendary career had he not passed from a substance overdose just 2 days after the draft pick. Celtics fans, along with everyone else, have been left to ask thousands of what-ifs every time they remember Len Bias and how he went way, way, way too soon. Next, we have Tim Hardaway coming out as a homophobe. 2007 was a long time ago, but the impact of Hardaway's hateful comments about the gay community still stings. Just after NBA player John Amaechi came out as gay, Hardaway came out as a homophobe. In a radio show hosted by ESPN's Dan Le Batard, Tim said, "Well, you know, I hate gay people, so I let it be known. I don't like gay people, and I don't like to be around gay people. I am homophobic. I don't like it. It shouldn't be in the world or in the United States. So yeah, I don't like it." Now that the world has become a bit more accepting, the NBA just wants us all to forget that a lot of players in that bygone era thought the same way as Hardaway did. Next, we have the whole Donald Sterling era. If you thought what you heard from Hardaway was bad enough, then you should remember that Donald Sterling once owned an entire Clippers team and still had the gall to insult black people. Sterling did a dozen horrible things that could have been grounds to kick him out of the league way earlier. But nothing else threw the NBA into a tailspin than the leaked voice recordings of Sterling making racist statements to his mistress. In those tapes, Sterling could be heard telling Stiviano, "In your lousy Instagram, you don't have to have yourself walking with black people. It bothers me a lot that you want to broadcast that you're associating with black people. Do you have to?" NBA players were appalled. They threatened to boycott the league if Sterling wasn't kicked out forever. And in a chilling showcase of silent protest, the Clippers wore their red warm-up shirts inside out, hiding the team's logo. Such a disgrace. Next, we have The Decision. This was the exact moment that stardom and a hyper-inflated ego met up to create a publicity disaster. We all remember it. LeBron James getting interviewed on live television and him announcing that he's taking his talents to the South Beach. At the time, it seemed something important was happening and we just had to tune in. But looking back, it was an unnecessary display of James's narcissistic tendencies. Like any other NBA player leaving his hometown team and signing with another, this news should have been reported by sports journalists, not made into a whole spectacle by the player himself. Years later, it was revealed that the whole thing was hardly LeBron's idea, but the fact that he had said yes and actually did it shows just how big LeBron actually thinks of himself. Next is Tim Donaghy's 2007 betting scandal. This whole controversy was so huge, entire memoirs and movies have been made about it. In 2009, malicious allegations started to spread that former NBA referee Tim Donaghy bet on games that he himself officiated during his last 2 seasons as a referee. Donaghy was asked to take a polygraph test in relation to these accusations, but he refused to take one because he simply knew he would fail it. Timmy ended up pleading guilty to 2 charges related to the gambling scandal and had to spend 11 months in federal prison. Researchers found that most of Donaghy's calls in the 40 games he officiated from 2006 to 2007 favored the team he bet on. The NBA wants us all to forget this, since the league is still trying to sell us the fantasy that none of its games are rigged. Thanks for watching the video.